I'm Dr. Mollie Marti, and welcome to Resiliency Matters. This is where we take the big resilience research and best practices and break it down into small bite-sized pieces that we can begin using immediately to strengthen ourselves and others. What if you could learn from an internationally renowned educational reformer? Would you spend the next 28 minutes with us? What if in the next 10 minutes you could learn how a headmaster in inner city London used high expectations to take a school from failing to thriving? Would you hang out with us? Who is us? My other half today is Hilary. Janet spent more than a dozen years as a headmaster. She now supports additional schools through her work as CEO of Floriat Education Academies Trust in the UK. There have been documentaries made about her work. You get to view some of those today and hear from Jan herself. Enjoy.
Welcome to St George's Primary School. It's a real honour to have you all here today, and we hope that you have a fantastic day.
I think the essence of St George's is the unshakable belief that no child is going to fail, that they are going to get every single child to proficiency, every single child. And that has been just incredibly motivating and inspirational to think that that actually happens, and I've never seen another place like it.
At the end, it says that her ghost bent down at him.
I think the number one thing that struck me was the leadership and the focus of the leadership. There are no questions asked. You don't guess about anything when you go into St. George's. You know exactly what those teachers need to do.
What we tried to do with St George's when we came was try to make the environment here really lovely for the children. So you can see in the surrounding area that it's very high-rise. It's very industrial, and their homes can be quite troubled as well. So nothing outside we wanted to be reflected inside. And when we first arrived here, school was an exact replica of what was outside. So we worked really hard with the gardener to redesign the gardens and to make sure that the children felt really valued and that they were really important and that their environment reflected that.
What was clear when I came to St George's was, okay, the children were failing in every year group, the school was failing, it was in what we call special measures, which is the category that says this school is completely failing and it needs new leadership, and hence we were here to get it turned around. At the same time, I was working with the children on how we would construct a calm school code. What might that look like? And I wanted it to be something that if you were 3 or if you were 63, I could use the same directives, referencing the Pacific Institute, tell me what it's like when it's right, positive directives. So together we came up with speak nicely, listen carefully, act kindly, move calmly. And every time we believed it better, and the conversations became not if conversations, but how conversations. Every child could succeed. And so that now we're a school where that we have a no excuses culture, and everybody in the school drives with an expectation that every single child is going to get there.
Besides his C, and then he gives it to the space tourist.
because when you're driving at every child successful, the environment changes, the relationships with children change, the relationships between the professionals change, the relationships between the leaders and the teachers changes, the relationships with the parents changes, because suddenly you realise that your parents are a massive resource for you and they're that child's first teacher, and you want them to be as active and busy, as successful as they can possibly be as that child's first teacher, and you want every conversation to be a learning focused conversation, because all of you are driving after the twin premium of fantastic in the moment opportunities for the children, lesson by lesson in every day, and outcomes that are absolutely risk-free, and then as we say, you're rocking.
And you actually created a code. I saw in the video you put it up on the wall, but tell us about that code, which you said shifts when everyone is in agreement with that, not to is it possible, but how do we achieve this?
The Calm School Code is such a simple code. It exists as 4 positive directives. So just before I go on to the code, to say that I was working with the staff team all the time to say that I wanted us to address all of our challenges through positive mechanisms, because that would mean that we always had motivation and morale, and our well-being would always be in a good place if we were working with positive psychology. And I also knew that would bring the results through quickly. So one of these was, I would hear all the time in the school, stop this, shouted, stop that, and so on and so on. And we were going to change this to tell the child what to do, not what not to do. So we would always be able to say to the child what to do now, and to have that as a trigger. So next time, what will you do when this situation arises again? So the child had the right choice ready to go next time. So we wouldn't be on a constant having to reteach it. So I actually worked with the children on what might the 4 positive directives be, and they came out with speak nicely, listen carefully, act kindly, move calmly. I mean, you can hear it's quite child-friendly language, but we knew we'd hit on it, because whether the children were 3 or if I was in the playground or out on the street with their mums or grandmas, I could use the same language. Mum, speak nicely to me, because I'm going to help. And it worked every time. And it's sustained 14 years on. It's still there working, and it's sustained. And the test of anything that you approach that you take in a school is whether it lasts.
Tool number 1, it is possible for every single child to thrive. Create this expectation for each child in your life. You can watch the whole From Crisis to Calm documentary. It's about a half hour long at this Vimeo address, or just visit our blog at nationalresilienceinstitute.org, and we have the videos there. What must you understand in order to truly connect to a child? Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Dr. Mollie Marti, and welcome back to Resiliency Matters as we continue our conversation with Janet Hilary, an educational reformer from the United Kingdom. Let's start with the environment. What you described, the structure, but what did you start to do to change the environment in which the children found themselves in each day?
Yeah, so first of all, before I worked on the physical environment, I knew that I had to work on the emotional environment, if you like, of the school, both for the children and for the staff team. And so I affirmed the school as a calm school, and I affirmed the school as a successful school, and I affirmed the school as a school where every parent was totally committed to the best achievements of their children and committed to the school. And I didn't do this in a way that was phony. I did it in a way that I, inside myself, having made the commitment, found an ability to completely believe that, because I knew that we were manifesting that, and I needed to manifest it in this moment now in order to be able to bring it about. Because if I set that as something that was a distance away, the journey would be too slow. So I affirmed it right there and then. And it's just extraordinary how the psychology of that can start to work on a team. Of course, alongside that, I had to start to establish authority very quickly. I mean, the school was lacking leadership and authority, and schools in very challenging contexts need very clear, uncompromising, courageous leadership. And there's no question that I went in with that. And I said, for example, one of the very first things I demanded of the team was that we had a no shouting policy, that any raised voice in the school at any time would be challenged. I would challenge that first of all through compassion, understanding that that was somebody who was in difficulty and needed support. But if at any point I felt that that was something that was being done as a choice, then we would be in a disciplinary situation, because we were no longer going to use aggressive, negative methods to bring the school to its new manifestation. We were going to use positive ways. We were going to work with absolute compassion. We were going to work in a position of valuing every child in every situation, value the child first, address the situation, the behaviour, the circumstances, and help the child to understand it's the behaviour that we need to address. You as a child are infinitely, uniquely of unspeakable great value as a person in your own right, and that will never change. And the same with the parents, to show them that we valued them, and we were in total partnership with them. It was an us community, and there was no them in this community any longer.
What guidance would you have for parents who just think, where do I start now? Now that I know better, I want to do better. How can I best support my middle schooler or a child who might not be ahead of the curve at this point?
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing, the good news that, you know, I hope I've brought to the US this week is that, you know, there really isn't a child that you can't teach to read, that you can't teach to write, and that you can't teach to be numerate. I've seen lots of children this week who've been pointed out to me as children who will never have these skills, and then I go to the child and I engage with them, and I see that they're absolutely capable of doing all of these things, and it just needs a different mindset from the teachers. I encourage all the parents, all the educators, all the leaders and policymakers in the US to get behind an understanding that children have unlimited potential and can do far more than learn to read and write and be numerate between 3 and 5 years old. To draw on the experiences of the great schools in the UK and elsewhere who are doing this work with great fidelity and effortlessly, and where the school and the home are working very much in partnership. So, for example, in our schools, right from 3, we have every 6 weeks something called family learning, where the parents come in to work with their children in school. The teacher models it, parent and child together do follow the model, and then you have that to go and rehearse at home. And we will always have that partnership working. And then I'm told, well, what about, you know, the so-called hard to reach families? But we work in the hardest to reach context in the UK, but we get 100% in for family learning because we set it as an expectation, and we don't send an invitation out and wait to see who comes. We set about the work of making sure every single family is getting there. So whatever the barriers are to the parents coming in, we're going to get those barriers down because those parents are coming in. No child is going to get left behind. So for those parents, if anybody wants to be in touch, I'd be very happy to talk to them about how you do it.
And here's tool number 2. Creating a clear, consistent code of conduct shifts the conversation from not if kids can succeed, but how. When we come back, we will be talking about accountability. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Dr. Mollie Marti, and welcome back to Resiliency Matters. Today we are talking to Jan Hilary, an educational reformer from the United Kingdom. We're going to start this segment by looking at a second documentary made about Jan's work at St. George's Primary School in inner city London. Take a look.
The essence of St. George's for me is transformation that begins in a small way with the child and, like the ripples of a pool, touches the lives of others.
That's actually what education should be about. If education is not a revolutionary act, then it's not worth having. It needs to be changing children's lives.
What's very important at St. George's is the consistency that we achieve across the school. And when anybody comes to visit, it's the real thing that sticks out for people is the consistency of practice and the consistency of approach. So we have a handbook at St. George's which tells everybody this is how we do things here. It's the St. George's way. And people get to see that before they choose to come and work here, because coming to work here is a choice, and we want people to really understand what it's about to come and work here and to commit to being here.
So setting that expectation, reducing barriers, you're giving so much information. I know you're also a big fan of Carol Dweck's growth mindset, and I think that also speaks to parents who are watching, who are thinking, how do I help my child, or teachers, how do we help this classroom? And a powerful tool from that is the word yet. Explain that I haven't mastered it.
Yes, we have used Carol Dweck's work, and I absolutely see the value of the growth mindset in children, so that they always believe that they are capable of achieving. In actual fact, to bring that through in reality, you have to break the learning down into very small steps. And actually in the UK, we're finessing the work which is described as mastery teaching, where you teach very sequentially. So every child is coming along with you step by step by step. And you pre-teach all the stages through to the main task where they're going to develop mastery in a particular skill. I think that's the first thing. I want, if I may, Mollie, to be controversial and to just put a word of caution in around all the growth mindset stuff, including resilience and all of these great character words. Because I have seen alongside the very many benefits to this work some things that trouble me around, first of all, character virtues and so on being interpreted as children needing to be entirely compliant, and that's not always helpful, because if your teacher is not teaching you well and you are just totally passive and compliant, I'm not sure that that's going to get you where you need to get to. Similarly, I've heard teachers say to parents, you know, they've got the potential, but they're just not there yet. They need to work harder. But I know that the teaching in that classroom is simply not strong and effective enough. And if the teaching was stronger, it's not about I need to work harder, it's about you need to teach better. And we've got to be very cautious around putting the onus on the child that they're not working hard enough, instead of boldly putting the onus on the teacher. Molly, I simply cannot emphasize enough, if I'm giving one message to America around high expectations, you've got to start holding people to account. People are in employment, they're choosing and to sign a contract to do a job, they're being paid to do that job, and the final part of that is, and you are accountable for every child's success. Now, make it happen.
So elevating accountability for teachers, for parents, and for students, but again, that focus on helping these children and not expecting them to be have that self-mastery from an early age.
Exactly. To bring the growth mindset in alongside superb teaching, because a superb teacher is going to always be working at the point of stretch for the child. Throughout the US this week, I've seen children working way below the point of stretch. They're doing things they can already do. A great teacher, a committed teacher, a teacher who works with accountability is at the point of stretch all the time, because you're taking the child up towards their potential. And then the child needs the growth mindset. They need to love that teacher back to, not because that teacher is hugging and squeezing them. This phrases I've heard this week, and the practice I've seen this week, where it's a very maternal kind of love, and to reclaim the territory of, I love you and I show my love by the effort and determination and the thought and attention I pay to your learning journey. And you love me because in every encounter of every school day, you can see that your learning, your progress, your attainment, your risk-free future matters more than anything else in this world to me right now. And by the way, it also really matters to me that both you and me are totally joyful in that process.
Jan, thank you so much for being here today. I know that your work here in Cedar Rapids this week has inspired so many, and now you've shared that with our viewers. So for that, we are very, very grateful. Viewers, here is tool number 3. Children live in the present moment. When adults are held accountable for creating moments of joyful and meaningful learning for each child, the future will take care of itself. We have links here at the bottom to the second documentary called St. George's Commitment and Consistency at Vimeo, or you can visit our blog again at nationalresilienceинstitute.org to view. I want to put up all 3 of these tools again, because this has been a very important and passion-filled session. I think of Jan as what I call a velvet brick, that she has the brick and she knows what she's about, and she will fight for children with everything she has, but she delivers it with love and compassion and kindness. There's that velvet that comes in. And so it's been such a joy to learn from her. Tool number 1, it is possible for every single child to thrive. Create this expectation for each child in your life. Creating a clear, consistent code of conduct shifts the conversation from not if kids can succeed, but how. And then children live in the present moment. So when you want to connect with a child, connect in that present moment. As one of the experts in the film said, education is a revolutionary act. If it's not, why educate? We educate to change children's lives. I hope this session with Jan has educated you, has inspired you. Thank you for joining me on MediaCom MC22 and Resiliency Matters. We're proud to be here as your local programming leader.